that I want to talk about is that the CSA survivors may experience parenting challenge and attachment issues, which is coming from their struggle with physical intimacy because of their experience as growing up, and the trust that could actually impact their bonding with their own children. So that's one of the intergenerational thing. And knowingly or unknowingly, and often it's unknowingly, due to the lack of trauma-induced parenting in India, more specifically, many CSA survivors, knowingly and unknowingly, can pass on the psychological anxiety, fear, and all that associated with that. So that's intergenerational. It's not just you are experiencing, now you are also passing it on to your child unknowingly, because we don't have a protocol to help the survivors navigate their over the life cycle. The second could be, it's the cycle of abuse. The cycle of abuse can continue. The cycle of re-victimization continue. And again, I was talking to Sachin while we were sitting. Many survivors often in India, in the context that we live, are forced to, in the early marriage, either forced to marry the abuser, or the family finds it's very quickly that we get the child married, which means that the child or growing up adult would lose the autonomy and gets into possibly the domestic abuse, domestic violence within the family, or maybe also the reproductive coercion. So again, you will see that what you experience in your childhood has an intergenerational effect. And we do have good evidence, studies suggest that CSA survivors are more likely to experience abuse within their family. I mean, especially the children of CSA abusers experience more abuse, especially the abusers are within their family itself. So that again, you will see that in the generation. The third one is that exposure to maternal trauma. That is like your mother has experienced child sexual abuse, and then obviously she's going to navigating her life throughout the life cycle, and you witnessing that, right? So this has a likely chance of high risk for, can lead to higher aggression or fear-based behaviors in childhood, and your poor emotional regulation and low self-esteem in adulthood. And it could also result in greater vulnerability to getting into an abusive relationship. So, but unfortunately, in my understanding, as a country, we do not understand, or we do not have a robust studies to understand the intergenerational impact of CSA, which is often overlooked. I mean, we recognize when things are happening, but we don't actually associate that to intergenerational abuse, intergenerational consequences. And this is completely overlooked in the maternal and child health policies and frameworks. So our policies and frameworks don't even actually have thought about how do we actually bring in this intergenerational trauma, and how do we build their capacity to deal with it as mothers, as adults they grow up. In my understanding, our public health system does not systematically address the intergenerational trauma in the policy and in the framework. That's absolutely a failure. I think that's where we all have collectively play a role to actually break the silence. And I mean, Saranya is my student, so she knows that I'm someone who strongly believes that if we have a positive experience and that can be passed on to intergenerational, that would create a positive intergenerational effect. So can we all pledge that we can break the silence in every possible way that we could in our own space, in our own workspace, in our own other spaces, so that this intergenerational cycle can be arrested and can actually be stopped.
Thank you so much. Next we have a question for Professor Nishi. So, child sexual abuse affects.
It's on.
So, child sexual abuse affects not just the individual, but it affects the entire social system around them, their families, the community. So, how can we have a systems approach to address the intergenerational and institutional impact?
Yeah. So, actually, this intergenerational aspect of it is something I came across in my research on violence against women. This is an area that I have done a lot of research in my career. So it became evident. I didn't go looking for it, but it kind of confronted me in a counseling cell where a woman walked in on a rainy day and was talking about the need for her to register a complaint. The counselor was not there because it was raining really hard, and she had a 10-year-old daughter come along with her, and she was saying, no, I need somebody to listen to me and make the complaint today only. And that opened up an area of research for me. As you said, Shivakami, there are not many researchers which look into the interconnection in families. And it was one case which came up. I gave it a full chapter of my observations in my PhD research, and it kind of validated a lot of what is being talked about in terms of parental unpreparedness to deal with child sexual abuse, and the fact that while we are working now in recognizing the phenomenon, we are not really still geared to address all who may be in some ways complicit in the violence or may also be impacted themselves and therefore not able to take the protective agency that they need to exercise or they want to exercise for their children, for their own issues of intimacy, but it could also be fears and repressed negativity which is there in the parents themselves. And this fact came out, and I would like to read a little bit of a conversation, if that can be okay, you know. Instead of answering it academically, it is important to feel it and to also hear a conversation in the counseling cell where a mother is coming and then she's saying her husband is incestuous regarding the child. The child is less than 10 years old. The child is accompanying the mother, and the mother is concerned and wants this to be documented. Subsequently, as the conversation proceeds, the mother is angry with the child for her complicity regarding the father and the sexual abuse and starts taking an emotional U-turn, saying, this girl, she is the main problem, she is doing all this. And then there is a flood of emotions that one has to deal with as a researcher, as a researcher trying to do ethical research, confronted with a poor child of less than 10 years of age, in a setting, in a counseling cell setting, with a mother turning against the child and seeing the child as a sexual threat. And it is pointing at the iceberg of this problem, because especially in the familial context, where the mother is both having ambivalent feelings of protection of this child and the protection of the family and the protection of her marriage and the economic compulsions that she is dealing with, because she's not happy with her husband, she's not happy with sexuality and sexual history in the family. But this is a topic which we cannot talk of. This is a taboo topic. For a woman to talk her own sexuality, that is not possible in the patriarchal society. For a child to talk about their sexuality, where is the space? So in this context, let me read a little snippet just for you to understand the implications. She revealed that she had come that day to report at the organization because of the fears that the younger daughter, who's only 10 years old, is in fear of being molested by him. My husband is so corrupt that he does not spare his own daughters. He did it to my elder daughter. He was always holding her very close to him. Nobody does that to grown-up daughters, but he held her so close that some of my friends who saw him just joked to me and said that he looks as if he's the husband of my daughter, and that I appeared to be a disapproving mother-in-law. One time when I had to be away for a month to my native place to take care of my ailing father, he kept my daughter with himself for a full month. He has become a complete fucker. However much I pleaded with him to let the daughter go with me, he did not let me take her on pretext of schools, exams, etc. One night when I slept with my daughter, bolting the door, he came and broke the door open. He was very angry. In another incident, it was a marriage in Nagpur where we all went. I suddenly went up to the first floor where I found my husband with his jeans open and the zip of the jeans of my child also open. He was on a swing and my girl was standing near him. Yesterday night, I saw it all with my own eyes. I was sleeping with my younger daughter. To keep us safe, I locked from outside the door of the room where her father was sleeping. In the middle of the night, I woke up to find the door of the room open and my husband urinating in the toilet. Who opened this door? It was only my daughter who opened the door. There was nobody else in the house. She's the one who did it because you see, she's interested in it. She has been having sex with him for the last 2 years. Initially, he used to beat and kick her into submission. Now she enjoys it. Actually, you see, her father gives her things. He gives her money to eat chocolates. He gives her clothes, takes her out to restaurants. This way, he wins her heart. Now this girl actually blackmails him. It is she who initiates it. How come she opened the door, which I had locked for her safety?